What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. As you can tell by the title, by the thumbnail, we are going to simulate the 2018 NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Not once, not twice, not even 3 times. We're going bigger than that. We're going way bigger than that. We are going to simulate the playoffs 100 times. We are going to use the scientific method of simulating this in NHL 18. Alright, so I hope you guys are ready for a very long, very boring, drawn-out walkthrough of each simulation, 1 to 100. Let's get into it. Did you really think I was going to put you through all that? Nah, that's not what we do at TDAC. Okay, we keep things interesting, keep things exciting, fast-paced. To save you guys some time, I'm going to run the simulation in the background. You guys can skip towards the results, and we'll talk about it then. So without further ado, let's get into the quick simulation here. Woo! Alright guys, so simulation is done. All 100 simulations have been processed and the results have been analyzed. There are skeptics out there. I just want to put all your concerns to bed right now. I have worked tirelessly on this video, alright? Hours and hours have been poured into it. Not just me, but some of you guys as well, the viewers, have helped me perform a simulation so I can, do it and don't have to spend, 15 hours a day doing simulations in NHL 18. So for one, I've got screenshots of all the playoff brackets. If you want to go, I've left a link in the description. If you're a big hockey analytics nerd or whatever, want to go through it, might pick up on something interesting that I didn't, I'll leave a link to this folder with all of these screenshots in the description. What I'll also do for you guys is leave a link to the summary of the results. I've literally taken all the data that can be derived from those screenshots from the playoff trees and inputted them manually into this spreadsheet summarizing all 100 simulations here. We've had some interesting results. We're gonna summarize them now. Let's get into it. All right, so the first series we're gonna go through from the West is the Nashville Predators versus Colorado Avalanche. And based on the simulation, Colorado was the worst team in the playoffs, winning the cup once out of 100 times. What's probably more surprising though was Nashville didn't really fare much better. They only won the cup 3 times themselves. And as for Nashville, their depth on defense especially looks good enough to get them past Colorado. Shouldn't have too much trouble unless Nathan MacKinnon continues to play out of his mind. Out of 100 simulations, Nashville will win 60 of them, 60% of the time, the other 40% going to Colorado. Within that 40%, when Colorado won, usually it was in 7 games, and in the other 60%, Nashville usually won the series in 6 games. This series is also most likely to be a sweep from either side, and Colorado was in fact the team that got swept the most in round 1, getting swept 13 times. So after 100 trials, the simulation says Nashville will escape the Avalanche in 6 games. Next series, of course, we're looking at the other Central Division matchup, Winnipeg versus Minnesota. Winnipeg was an absolute powerhouse in the simulation. They had the second most cup wins with 16, and they were the team that made it to the Stanley Cup Finals the most, making it 37% of the time. However, Winnipeg's win record when making it to the Stanley Cup Finals was kind of below par. They won only 43% of the time when they made it to the Cup Finals. Usually they would match up against either Tampa or Pittsburgh and would come out on the losing end. Now, a bright spot for Minnesota is that even though they played Winnipeg, they still did better in terms of overall cup wins than Nashville. Minnesota came out on top with 4 wins compared to Nashville's 3. But in this first round matchup, after 100 simulations, Winnipeg takes the series 64% of the time, compared to Minnesota's 36. And regardless of the team who won in any one simulation, the series most of the time went to Game 7. So after 100 trials, the simulation says that Winnipeg will win a wild series against Minnesota, taking it in 7 games. Next is a series that I like to call the Feudal system rivalry. It's the Vegas Golden Knights against the Los Angeles Kings. When looking at both of these teams overall, neither really performed well in the grand scheme of things. Vegas won the cup 3 times and LA won only twice. One takeaway from the series, it was one of the most even of all of them, with 63% of the series going to either 6 or 7 games. So although Vegas might make history and are poised to win their first ever playoff series, they don't look ready yet to go on a deep playoff run, in this simulation having lost 84% of the times in either rounds 1 or 2. And for LA, if they can get by Vegas, they'll have a much better chance of making it to the conference finals than Vegas would, with LA making it there at least 1/3 of the time. Like I said, this series was very close. In the end, Vegas took it 55% to 45% for Los Angeles. And again, the series was pretty consistent in terms of games played. When either team won majority of the time, it happened in game number 6. So after 100 trials, the simulation says that Vegas will keep on surprising, make history, and win their first ever playoff series against LA in 6 games. And last but not least, in the Western Conference, we have the Anaheim Ducks versus San Jose Sharks. This series is by far the most even of all the playoff series, going virtually 50-50. It was also one of the longest series too, with 60% of the games going at least 6 games. What's interesting though is if the series is short, either 4 or 5 games, that favors more San Jose. But if the series goes on longer, either 6 or 7 games, then Anaheim is mostly favored here. Good news for both teams though is that whichever team ended up making it out of the first round ended up making to the conference final at least 30% of the time. So like I said, this series was extremely close, but the simulation has got Anaheim winning 51% of the time to San Jose's 49. After 100 trials, the simulation says that Anaheim will overcome the San Jose Sharks in a 7-game bloodbath. Moving over to the other side of the bracket, other side of the country, in the Metropolitan Division, we have a significant rivalry up here in the first round. Pittsburgh, the defending champs, going for the three-peat versus the Philadelphia Flyers. So this one is a pretty lopsided affair. I don't think anybody's really surprised other than Philly fans. Pittsburgh dominated Philadelphia in the simulation, winning the series in 5 games, at least a quarter of the time. Across all the teams in the playoffs, Pittsburgh ranked 3rd in total cup wins by completing the three-peat 15 times. Looking a little bit further down the bracket in the conference final, they had a big rivalry with Tampa Bay. In fact, 60% of those 15 cup wins from Pittsburgh came after beating Tampa in the conference finals. And as for Philadelphia, they don't really look poised to make a deep run, getting eliminated either in round 1 or 2 90% of the time. So with respect to this series, this simulation had Pittsburgh winning 69% of the time over Philadelphia's 31. But when Philadelphia did end up winning those 31 times, they did it most often in game 7, whereas when Pittsburgh won, they did it most often in game 5. That being said, after 100 trials, simulation says Pittsburgh sends the Flyers packing in 5 games. And on the other side of the Metro Division, we have the Washington Capitals versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. Maybe surprising to some, but Columbus is actually favored to come out of this matchup. Actually, maybe not so surprising now. Unfortunately for Capitals fans, looks like their second round playoff woes continue, only making it out of round 2 16 times. And if you guys are looking for a sleeper pick in your bracket, you might as well go with Columbus, because they look to be able to dominate Washington in the first round, and then even in the second round, when they probably match up against Pittsburgh, they go against pretty evenly against them as well. In this series, we've got Washington winning less than 40% of the time, and Columbus winning 61%. When Washington did win the series, they won it most often in game 5, and when Columbus won, they did it most often in game 6. After 100 trials, simulation says the Columbus Blue Jackets washes away the Capitals in 6 games. If you guys are looking for a rivalry, there's no better one than this: Boston versus Toronto. After the top 3 heavyweights of Winnipeg, Pittsburgh, and Tampa, Toronto ended up tied 4th in total cup wins with Columbus at 6. Although this first round matchup was a close one, Toronto had much more success after coming out of it compared to Boston, making it to at least the conference finals about a quarter of the time. Boston struggled to make deep playoff runs in this simulation, having a hard battle against Toronto in the first round and then likely going up against Tampa in the second round. They only ended up making it to the Stanley Cup Finals 4 times. However, when Boston did make it to the finals, they won 3 out of the 4 times that they made it, giving them the best Stanley Cup Final win record across all teams. This series was another long one, with at least 2/3 of the simulations going to at least 6 games. But after all 100 simulations, we've got Boston winning 46% of the time to Toronto's 54. When Boston did win, they won it most often in game 6, and when Toronto won it, they won it in a nail-biter, pressure-packed game 7. So after 100 trials, the simulation says that Toronto will chase their demons, avenge that 2013 collapse, and beat Boston in 7 games. And last but not least, we have the most lopsided series of the playoffs: Tampa Bay versus New Jersey. Tampa absolutely crushed it in this simulation. They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals 30 out of 100 times. Tampa looks to be the overwhelming cup favorite right now, winning it every 1 in 5 times. Like Philadelphia, New Jersey's playoff appearance was short this year, making it only to rounds 1 or 2 90% of the time. So with respect to this series, in round 1, Tampa wins 71% of the time. New Jersey, sorry, but you're only winning 29 matches out of 100. When the Devils did end up winning, those very few times that they did, they won mostly in game 6. And when Tampa won, they made quick work of New Jersey, winning most of the time in 5 games. And so for the last bad pun of this video, after 100 trials, the simulation says that Tampa strikes down the Devils in 5 games. All right, so now that we've gone through the first round matchups, we can kind of fill out our bracket here that I'm going to be submitting in my bracket challenge. Of course, I'm not going to win, can't win my own bracket challenge, but one of you guys can. So be sure to enter, links in the description. So in the West, we've got Nashville, Winnipeg, Vegas, and Anaheim coming out of their respective first round series. Nashville in 6, Winnipeg in 7, Vegas in 6, and Anaheim in 7. Then the second round, Nashville versus Winnipeg, we've got the relatively new team Winnipeg burst onto the scene and bursting right into the conference finals to face Anaheim, who's gonna end Vegas' Cinderella run here. And have set up a Winnipeg versus Anaheim conference final. This will be a great series, lots of scoring, lots of hitting, but the simulation says that Winnipeg is going to take it. They're going to outscore their opponents left, right, and center, and get an appearance in the Stanley Cup Finals. In the East, you've got Tampa smacking the Devils in 5, Boston losing to Toronto in a heartbreaking 7 games, which I'm sure Toronto fans will enjoy for years to come, Columbus beating up on Washington in 6 games, and Pittsburgh making quick work of the Flyers in 5. Second round, Tampa versus Toronto, very, very entertaining series, at least it should be. Simulation says Tampa's got it, and Columbus, a sleeper pick, can't do enough to dethrone the Penguins going after their three-peat. They're off to the conference finals. And again, Tampa versus Pittsburgh. Again, high-scoring offenses here. It's going to be a tight battle, but simulations got Tampa coming out on top, which sets up a Winnipeg versus Tampa final. And I don't know if any of you guys picked up on it, but we've got a Winnipeg jersey. We've got a Tampa jersey. Winnipeg in the final, Tampa in the final, all right? So whoever picked up on that, claps to you, congratulations. But in the Cup Finals here, after 100 simulations, the eventual, most often Stanley Cup champion is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I can't say that I'm surprised. Tampa and Winnipeg, both great teams during the regular season, and they look, hopefully, to continue that success in the playoffs. Simulation says so, but be sure to let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to take the cup? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, like I said at the beginning of the video, I did not do all 100 simulations. I have some sort of a life, so I crowdsourced this whole project to you guys, and a bunch of you guys came through, helped me out, did a large portion of the simulations for me. So big shout out to all you guys. I'll leave all you guys in the description. Thank you, you're beauties. If you didn't know that I was doing this, I was actually kind of talking about it with a lot of my audience in the background in my Discord server. So if you want to join that and interact with me and other guys on Team TDI in real time, then be sure to go and hit up the link in the description as well. And I also want to thank my sponsors, CoolHockey.com and NoName Hockey, for sponsoring my bracket challenge and providing the prizes. First place is a Cool Hockey jersey. Second place is a pair of NoName Hockey gloves. Third place is a $100 gift card, CoolHockey.com. And fourth place is a no-name player hockey bag. All right, so guys, if you're interested in any of those prizes, be sure to sign up in the bracket challenge. I do this every year. It's the second year I'm doing it, and we're gonna go a lot more in the future as well. Hope you guys are excited for the playoffs. They're happening tonight as I upload this video. Hope you guys are psyched. I'm so excited. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. And until next one, go Leafs go.